Omari, a lot to talk about with the Jets. I mean, let's just start with those Greeny comments. I mean, he's trying to find ways to be optimistic. I think that's how most Jet fans are trying to be, at least at this stage of the summer, get the camp, hope that things could somehow be better. I know there's some who are just rooting for losses right away. I just can't do that. I'll go into the year with an open mind. They start 0-4, then yeah, I understand, tanking and rooting for L's. I get it. But at least going into the year, I'm going to try and be positive and give Aaron Glenn and this regime a chance to win games and prove us wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little preachy here. I think the cool one of the funniest things that Greeny said yesterday was like, being an optimist and a pessimist, they both cost you nothing, but one feels a little bit better. He said Scott Van Pelt told him that. And that's kind of where you and I are, right? And then also, what I said yesterday to a couple of fans that are just so dead set on tanking is just like you're robbing yourself of present joy. This is football, but it's also a little bit more than that for a lot of people, Jake. I know that you go to games and it's different when you're sitting on X, when you're sitting on Facebook, when you're sitting on Instagram or whatever medium you choose to consume your team. It's different. But when you go to the games, you're building relationships. I don't know if you go with any family members, but again, like one of my good friends, Petey, he goes with his dad. They've been going for almost 3 decades now. They don't want to go and sit and watch losing. The people, I know Joe Caparoso, he takes his boys. I know Connor Rogers. I know Will. Those guys go, they want, you want to feel good. You want to go with your friends. I want to take my wife. You know what I'm saying? My daughter, she's thinking about being a Ravens fan. How can I convince her to be a Jets fan if all they do is lose? So it's a little bit more than that. And also people have to remember too, some people aren't truly happy with their lives. Some people could be in a depressed state and football genuinely makes them happy. So if they choose to be happy before the season starts, if they want to believe in Aaron Glenn, if you want to get hyped about David Bailey or D'Angelo Pons, or even think that Geno Smith is going to reclaim whatever magic that he was able to get in Seattle, this is the time for you to do that. And I don't think that you should rob yourself of present joy just because you want to play GM and you want your favorite college quarterback to come and man the ship. If you're going to be happy as a Jets fan, I think over the next 6 weeks are the best time to be happy as a Jets fan. Go to as many Jets fans events as you can. We just had Jets Beach Club as Maniacs. We're going to be getting together on August 1st. Now is the time to do that. We have plenty of time to get mad at the coach, get mad at the owner, get mad at the team. Right now, let's just enjoy it. Let's live in the moment and let's be a little happy.
I'm right there with you. And again, no one's saying that this means all is well and we can ignore what happened last year, but I mean, we'll see how they start. They got a winnable game week 1. I've made my thoughts very clear on this show, how big of a game I believe that one to be. So today's topic comes to us from a guy I really like. We've had him on the show a bunch, Brian Costello, who covers the Jets for the New York Post. On the Gangs All Here podcast, Kaz and Ryan Sampson, who we had on earlier this week, they were hosting a training camp preview episode. And this was Brian Costello being asked, would Woody Johnson, if the Jets get off to another miserable start, would he do what he did 2 years ago where he fired Robert Saleh in the middle of the season, 5 games in with the Jets at 2-3? Would Woody be impatient again and make that sort of change? Here's Kaz on that very topic.
I don't think Woody Johnson's going to want to do that again. Saleh is not Woody Johnson's guy.
Yep.
Right? I think you got to remember that Christopher hired him when Woody was in England. That it was the very end of Woody's time in England, but Christopher hired him. I didn't know this well at the time. I've subsequently learned that Woody just really didn't like Saleh. Like he didn't. There was a lot of things that bothered Woody about Saleh. Aaron Glenn is Woody's guy. Like that was the guy. He hired him. He's known him for a long time. When he was a scout with the Jets. Obviously, he was a player. He was at the end of his career when Woody bought the team, but he got to know him as a scout. He really likes Aaron Glenn, and so I think he's going to be hesitant to do a midseason firing Ryan. I know there's time. I guess there's some scenario you can come up with. I'm not going to say he can lose every game and keep his job. But if he scuffles early on, if he's, 0-4, I don't think he's getting fired. I don't think it's going to be as quick as the Saleh firing. I think he's got some time here to figure it out.
Look, the bottom line I would say is this. If you're Woody Johnson and the Jets get off to an awful start, what's the point of firing Aaron Glenn at that point? Like if Aaron Glenn becomes dead coach walking, they start 0-4, 0-5. If they look awful, like some think it's possible given their schedule, where if they lose week 1, you're facing the NFC North. You're facing 3 of potentially the better teams in the league. You could be cooked before you even get to a winnable game in that week 5 matchup at MetLife against Cleveland. If they look that bad, Omari, what would be the point in firing Aaron Glenn? Like, what are you salvaging if you're up to an 0-4, 0-5 start at that point? They didn't fire Adam Gase. Now, that was Chris Johnson, not Woody at that point. But they let Adam Gase start 0-13. They let him ride out the year. Like, at that point, losing to me would be in the best interest for the New York Jets. And if that's the case, why not keep the guy who started 0-7 and finished 3-14 in his first year? He's your path to potentially getting the number 1 pick in the draft finally after all these years. Plus, Woody Johnson got so much blowback when he fired Saleh 5 games in. And in hindsight, it was a terrible move, and it made the Jets look awful. And the PR that Saleh got from it after the Jets collapsed with Ulbrich and looked even worse. And then Saleh goes unscathed. They blamed it all on Woody, blamed it all on Rodgers, blamed it all on everyone but Saleh. He easily gets another head coaching job after 1 year of being a DC. I feel like if you're the Jets and you want to make your job attractive for Tomlin, McDermott, KOC, whoever the top coaching candidate is, just letting Aaron Glenn get 2 full years. If he goes out there and has 5 or 6 total wins through his first 2 years and you fire him, no one can say you didn't give him a fair chance. They'll look at the record and say, yup, I understand why even the Jets, of course, had to make this change. So I hope Woody doesn't fire Aaron Glenn in the middle of the year, because I just don't know how productive that would be. If they fire him midseason, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people from the outside being like, oh, they never gave him a chance. He needed more time. Look how bad the Jets have been, which is not true. But, people will say it, and perception sometimes can be a reality. I think it's in the best interest to actually just let Glenn coach the entire year and then evaluate him. And if you already know he's getting fired, great. Then he might be able to help you get the number 1 pick. And as Geno Smith led the Raiders to the promised land, maybe Aaron Glenn and Geno could do that a year later. The Jake Asman Show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks right now. If you're a sports fan, they have something for everyone, especially if you're one of my listeners and you're gearing up for the upcoming Jets season. For player picks on PrizePicks, you just pick a player you like and you go more or less on a few of their stats. Check out some of the numbers they have for some of your favorite Jet players: Geno Smith, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq, and many more. PrizePicks should be your go-to. And check out their new offer right now. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you need to do is sign up and use that code HMA. That's PrizePicks code HMA. Download the app now or click the link in the description to download the PrizePicks app today.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think the firing of Robert Saleh turned him into some kind of sympathetic figure. I was listening to an AFC South podcast, and both speakers said that Robert Saleh didn't get a fair shake in New York. And I was just looking around like he didn't get a fair shake. I mean, he was fired early, but there's a ton of things that we could point to that Robert Saleh misstepped with. We don't even have to get into the Saleh, but I'm with you, Jake. I think if he starts off, listen, we said the reason that we're saying that week 1 is such a must-win game because the NFC North is going to be a gauntlet. I think that they're going to beat up on each other, and that could potentially be one of the best divisions in football. So you have to start off on the right foot. But again, they're going to be retiring Chris Johnson's number. Emotions are going to be high. That's going to be a tough game on the road. Second-year QB, new OC, new head coach. Those guys are going to be fired up. And also a lot of those guys used to be former Jets as well, too. So there's going to be some extra juice for that game. So again, you have to come out, you have to look prepared. But if Aaron Glenn starts off 1-5, if he starts off 1-6, Jake, I'm right there with you. I don't think that there's any incentive to let him go because you're not going to salvage the season. All right. You're not going to what are you trying to salvage? You're trying to salvage Geno Smith? Or are you trying to salvage Garrett Wilson? I mean, I don't really know what you're trying to salvage. You might as well just take your medicine. And I think that Aaron Glenn should be, if we have to sit and watch these games and do pre-games and post-games for 17 weeks, Aaron Glenn should have to prepare for 17 weeks as well, too. All right. We all have to go through this humiliation ritual together. He doesn't get an easy out if he starts off and this is just a complete train wreck. So I'm right there with you. There's no benefit and there's zero incentive to firing a head coach. And then it's also about optics, which you said as well, too. How is this going to look to if you're trying to attract a young offensive-minded coach? Or why would, whatever hot name is out there, I'm sure people are going to be talking about Nate Schillhouse and, Grant Udinski and all those other young guys that are offensive-minded. Why would they want to come here if the last 2 coaches were fired mid-season when things got a little rough?
Totally agree.
And you have to turn things around. I feel like Dan Campbell is an outlier, but you have to look at what the what the Detroit Lions were before he and Brad Holmes took over. They were terrible their first year. And then they actually started off pretty terrible their second year, and then they were able to turn it around. So again, it's really hard to use Dan Campbell as a model of success because I feel like that just doesn't happen often. But again, they could start off 1-3, 1-4, and still be building towards something else. And I truly don't think people understand how long it takes to really rid the identity of the previous regime and the previous coaching staff. What did Harrison Phillips say at the Super Bowl last year? That Aaron Glenn was dealing with group that was, I believe the word he said was cantankerous, or they were basically fighting against him from the inside. So I think I truly think people don't understand how much a mentality and a mindset can take over a locker room. You have to filter a lot of that out. So they've been able to filter a lot of that weak-minded section of the fan of the team out. So now hopefully you'll see a new mentally tougher team that can handle adversity a little bit better. So maybe they can overcome starting 1-3, because we all saw that group, they couldn't. Like you look back at the Miami game, Jake, after the fumble by Braylon Allen. Didn't you know that group gave up? Like you can kind of see it. There were times where things would just happen and you just knew, okay, yeah, they're going to give up.
They
even
folded.
After Will,
every time there was adversity, they folded.
They folded every time. And even after Will McDonald, I was watching Netflix Quarterback, even after Will McDonald blocked the kick and he ran down there and scored, did you really think that they were going to stop them?
No chance.
No chance. And if we know that as fans, don't you think the guys that are second stringers, don't you think the guys that are just role players are like, yeah, we're not going to get a stop? So again, I think that I don't think that firing Aaron Glenn does anything.
I just think you give him the 2 years and you make the job as attractive as possible. You don't have any drama of, oh, well, the last two head coaches that worked for Woody, they didn't even make it through a full season. In that current year, Glenn only got a year and a half. Saleh got fired only 5 games in when they were going to play for first place. Like all these narratives that people could paint, ignoring the context of Saleh being in his 4th year or Glenn looking as bad as you could look for any first-year coach that actually kept his job in recent memory, besides maybe like Hugh Jackson. Like that's the comp for Glenn, unfortunately, as far as just what we saw, the point differentials, the turnovers or lack thereof for the Jets, of course, with the interceptions. It's a real thing. So look, that's what we would do. We're using logic. Woody Johnson is going to be 80 years old soon. He could be impatient. He could be he could be all in on Aaron Glenn, and I do think he genuinely likes him, but that could change, right? If he just keeps losing, eventually Woody Johnson is going to be like, I like you, but we're not winning games here. Last year, he tried to blame it all on Justin Fields. Well, who's going to get the blame this year? They fired the whole coaching staff besides the special teams. Like it's going to be on the head coach, you would think.
Yeah, and now there's really nowhere. It's like they put him on for my corporate people out there, it's like they put him on a PIP plan, performance improvement plan. You get a warning, when your output and your production is starting to slip, you get a warning. So now there's nobody else to blame. If the defense doesn't look good, Jake, it's his fault. If the offense doesn't look good, it's Frank Reich's fault, but it's also his fault because you chose Frank Reich. So there's nowhere to turn. There's no scapegoats. You have to look in the mirror and you just have to say, okay, maybe I'm just a little bit overmatched. The only thing that I disagreed with Greeny, and Jake, we didn't talk before going into last year. Did you really think that team was that talented? Yes, they had individual guys that individually were good. You had Sauce, had a lot of accolades, Quinnen Williams, but their number 2 receiver was Josh Reynolds or Alan Lazard. Like, did you truly think that team was talented?
I thought defensively, the fact that they had 9 of their 11 starters back and they hired Glenn, who was a defensive coach, I expected a lot more from the defense. And I thought that, well, they should be able to run the ball. We liked their O-line. We thought Fields would have a real plan in place to design an offense around his skill set of what he could do. We never saw that outside the opener. Like, it's like they just completely went away from all the things that worked that day against Pittsburgh. But I'm with you. I didn't think they were that, talented, but I did think they were going to be better than obviously the 3 wins that we saw. I thought they were going to be better coached, and that was going to lead to them winning more than the 5 games they won that final year with Rodgers, Saleh getting fired, and then Ulbrich being in over his head, taking over. So I kind of agree with part of what Greeny was saying and part of what you're saying. I think I'm more in the middle of both you guys.
Yeah. No, and that's fair because maybe by that point, I was just so down and out on Saleh and just a pessimist at that point. I said, I don't see how this is going to I don't see how this is going to work. I know I know that the mindset of bringing in Wilkes is because he took over a solid defense in San Francisco after he departed. But again, none of those guys fit a read and react system. So I had little faith and I had little hope that they were going to be good. So it's just shocking. I think that we're going to actually see. I think this is going to be a good determination of what he is, and we're going to find out really early. By week 7, Jake, we're going to have an idea of how soon we should start preparing for 2027. And it wouldn't shock, to be honest. I said that they're going to start off 2-0. Just right now, I'm just feeling a little bit good, but I do see lanes for them to start out 2-0. But I could definitely see them starting out 0-4. And I'm coming on here every Wednesday or Thursday or whatever the schedule is. And Jake is like, hey, so what do you think about those college quarterbacks? Did you watch on Saturday? So I'm fully prepared for both, honestly.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.